Today we are talking to Richard Weylman, the author of Power of Why, Breaking Out in a Competitive Marketplace. Welcome to Redera.
Thank you so much. It's a delight to be with you today, Manish.
Thank you. What is the book all about?
The book, it really speaks to the massive shift that's occurred in consumer behavior. Whether you're selling B2B or business to consumer, it really doesn't matter. What's happened is, since 2008, since the advent of the internet as a real source of information for people, the challenge today is information is ubiquitous. And as a result of that, the consumer has all the power, meaning they have many, many, many choices. And so they really are looking to do business with a firm, an individual, that really, if you will, is focused on an overarching outcome that consumer will receive. Give you an example. If you think about Michelin, if you think about Goodyear, Michelin has done extraordinarily well up against Goodyear, who was the #1 tire company in the world for 42 years, and clearly advertised, we're #1 in tires. Yet Michelin comes along, and what they promise as an overarching promise is that if you buy Michelin's, it's a better way forward. Consequently, Michelin now outsells Goodyear because Goodyear is selling tires and, shall we say, the fact that they're #1, or what Michelin is selling is a better way forward. And that's what people want today. And I saw this shift in our consulting firm as we work with people all over the world, that this was a shift that was going on in the consumer, that they really wanted to have a sense of outcome before they even engaged.
So what you're saying is good product is not enough alone, but the message also has to convey in a customer-centric way and help customers solve problems rather than talking from the seller-centric way.
That's exactly right, and that's very well put. Because as you begin to think through why any of us do business with anybody for any reason, it's always because we want to, shall we say, solve something or experience something or be involved in something. And so as a result of that, what we look for as consumers of anything is we look for organizations that we perceive is going to deliver that which it is that we're seeking. And that is the reason I wrote The Power of Why, Breaking Out in the Competitive Marketplace. Because being different today is not enough. You really have to be distinct in today's marketplace, meaning people really need to see that you're focused on their perspective, not your perspective, as in we're #1, we're the best, we won every award. Nobody cares.
Makes a lot of sense. And you have The Power of Why as the book title. What is the power of why and how does it work?
The power of why is really understanding the real reason why people do business with you. As an example, if you were to talk to any of your customers, if any business you're in, and say, why do you do business with me? Oh, well, you have good service, or you do a good job, or your pricing's pretty good, or you're very responsive. I really like it. You get all of those, what we call top of the mind answers. But in reality, those aren't the really deep functional, emotional reasons why people are doing business with you. And so what we discovered in our consulting work is that when you first ask the question, why should I do business with you? You're going to get that top of the mind answer. But by then probing, well, why is that important to you? What happens is people often pause and they'll say, well, to be honest with you, and here comes a very deep, often emotional connection that they have with your product, your service, or your sales force, or your messaging. And that is the deep-seated reason they're doing business. So the real power, if you will, behind why is not settling for the first why, but it's really being curious and using curiosity to really discover the deep-seated second and third reasons why. So as an example, you might say, why they say good service. Why is that important? Well, because my time is valuable. Well, why is that important to you? Because I'm a very busy person, and it means a lot to me that you care about getting it to me early. Those actual words from the, shall we say, customer is really the basis, the heartland, the core words you would want to take and begin to fashion those into your brand value promise. Because that reason that individual is doing business with you would likely compel many other people to do business with you as well.
And yes, we live in a very competitive marketplace. For virtually every good product, there are other good products out there. But does sometimes your competitor outsells you, and that is troubling part for any business owner or a manager. That what is that we can do to improve our sales or our rather customer satisfaction so that we can sustain the customer base and grow?
Yes, and there's many facets to that. And as I wrote the book, obviously we put a lot of stories in there from our consulting work, et cetera, not to promote consulting, but to give people context. In fact, I heard from a CEO the other day, it's now in 5 languages. He said, Richard, as I read the book, the first thing that dawned on me as I read some of these stories and these anecdotes and comments from 55 other organizations that we've researched and done business with, first thing that hit me is, wait a minute, I need to stop here and realize what we're trying to do is open my mind. I need to be open to the fact that we keep saying we're different as a company. And what you're illustrating in the book is we need to be not only open to being distinct, but we first have to be open. Second point is made, we have to be willing to make some changes in the way we approach the market. And thirdly, we need to be transparent when we're having difficulties growing the business and go back and ask people why they're doing business with us. And there brings out the nugget. As I mentioned earlier in our interview today, oftentimes people, when you ask them, why should I do business with you? They'll say something, well, we're different. Or if you call into an office, so I was thinking about doing business with you, but there's another dry cleaner up the street. Well, let me tell you what makes us different. You hear that as part of the lexicon of the sales and marketing team. They always want to talk about difference. CEOs, you watch them on any of the stock shows, and when they want to talk, well, let me tell you what makes our company different. The problem with difference is it's polarizing. The only way I can determine what makes you, quote, different from my current provider is I've got to compare you to that which it is that I already have. So it just makes good business sense to recognize that when somebody says, what makes you different from the guy or gal up the street or another individual in the marketplace, your answer should be, well, let me tell you what our customers say makes us distinct. You get 2 things there. Number one, you get implied endorsement. And secondly, when you use the word distinct, and it's not just a play on words, it engages different parts of the brain, as I explained through the book. And what happens is people then start listening to what they're, shall we say, perceiving as points of distinction. And what that does, it helps set your product apart, it helps set your company apart, and you're not competing on your own accolades, your own attributes, and your own features, which very likely other products and services are using similar attributes and features as well.
Can we take 2 or 3 examples from the book to illustrate what you just mentioned so people can connect with the real life examples there?
Sure. An example, if an individual in the financial services business, in fact, I have a case study that I've written on a group that we work with, they had an opportunity to sit down in front of an individual who wanted to move his account from one firm to their firm. They went to the meeting. He had carved out a couple of hours. They sat down, and after about 30 minutes, he said, unfortunately, I have to adjourn this meeting. He said, I really just don't have time. Something's come up. So they left, and he said, I'll be in touch. By the time they got back to their office, he had sent them an email. He said, I really wanted to move my account to you because I really thought you could help me. But your entire presentation was about your years of experience, your financial plan, how you manage money, how things about you, your certifications, etc. I didn't call you to have you talk about you. I wanted you to come and explain how you could help me. Another example of that would be a trucking company we had the privilege of working with. And in Canada, these individuals are in the dispatch business. Everybody in the dispatch business has trucks that they broker. And they would call large companies and say, you know, we have trucks on the ground and we're in radio contract and we can monitor your services and where your shipments are. And they just could not get the business to grow. They had a core constituent group and that was it. Well, by going out and talking to their existing customers about why they did business with them, it wasn't at all about the fact they track this or they track the shipment or they're very responsive, that they have a lot of trucks under brokerage. The reason was that they did business is because they took a personal interest in getting their shipments there on time. Now, let me tell you, when you're in a commoditized business like trucking, believe you me, taking a personal interest is a big deal. So they rebranded themselves and began to advertise that they took a personal interest in getting your shipment there on time. Bottom line is they ended up with some of the largest accounts in Canada and sold the company for $100 million. Why? Because people were calling them and asking them, how is it that you take a personal interest in getting my delivery there on time? Or conversely, another good example is when they called someone to explain their services, and people would say, well, we're already doing business with this other trucking company. And they would say, well, that's terrific, but let me tell you what our customers say we do for them. We take a personal interest in getting their delivery on time. To which those prospects would say, really? You take a personal interest? How do you do that? Which at that point, then you can begin to explain the attributes and the features of that which it is that you do that makes you distinct. So those types of things help set people apart in the marketplace because their perception is that you're communicating from their perspective as opposed to communicating I this, I that, we this. I often say, Manish, that too many businesses and sales professionals have I trouble. I this and we that. What the consumer wants to know is, what is it going to do for me at a high level? Are you going to take a personal interest in getting my delivery there on time? Are you going to be like, as an example, Walmart's a classic example. For years, they advertised low prices every day. Low prices every day. They built a big brand with it. But after the consumer shift in '08 and '09, which was the premise for my book through our work with companies, I saw that this was a big topic and a big shift. Walmart, not with our help, Walmart on their own figured it out, of course, like many have, and they've rebranded themselves, and now it's Walmart. Save money, live better. Now, how many people want to save money and live better? Look at their same-store sales. 90 days after the rollout, 1.5% bump in same-store sales. That means people in the same geographic area are now doing business with them, not because of low prices every day, which is an attribute or a feature of Walmart, but now they're making a brand promise, which is save money, live better.
Very good examples. We can continue with a couple of more in different industries or different maybe professional services or in manufacturing or in very highly competitive businesses.
Yes, as an example, when you get into manufacturing, a lot of people want to talk about the technology, and we have robotics and on and on and on it goes. And they always want to talk about their capability and their ability. But on the other hand, if you look at the manufacturing companies like 3M as an example, which is also, of course, on the distribution side, but if you look at some of these tool and die companies in Ohio, the ones that have landed the big contracts, what did they do? They promise an outcome in terms of what they do. They don't talk about, we've got years of experience creating whatever the case might be, doing tool and die manufacturing or doing custom work. They don't mention custom, if you will, work that they do. What they do is talk about the outcome. As an illustration, you look at the average person in manufacturing today, that's what they want to talk about, is their capability. But if you look at organizations like Oh, there's another one. There's Wells Lamont at MSC up there, Raleigh Industrial. Some of the really big ones. All they talk about is what? The outcome they deliver, helping you manage your budget more effectively, helping you get the product you need at the right price. Well, if I'm someone thinking about manufacturing, who am I calling first? The guy or gal that's been in business for, pick a number, 20 years or talks about their capability? Or do I want to call a company that says they're going to give me the perfect tool to execute my product? I think I'm probably going to call the people that are marketing the fact that they're going to build my perfect tool for my product, or they're going to manufacture my product effectively, cost effectively, and efficiently. So when you think about it from the standpoint of even delivering something in the manufacturing side, who do you want to do business with? Somebody who's been in business a long time and talks about how good they are, or someone that says, what we're going to do is we're going to manufacture your product, whether it's something for a manufacturing plant or your actual consumer product. We're going to manufacture it efficiently and effectively so that you can make a profit. We all know who you're going to call. In professional services, we have the exact same thing. You look at law firms. They love to talk about themselves now that they can advertise, and we this and we that and we that. Financial professionals do the same thing. We this, we that. On the other hand, if you go on LinkedIn and type in financial professionals, you'll get a whole list of thousands and thousands of people. On the other hand, if you go in and type in, want to get my financial life in balance, you're going to get a very small list of financial professionals who actually say in their brand promise that they would help you get your financial life in balance. You talk to the average person in a CPA firm, they talk about doing your taxes. On the other hand, we're going to do business with a CPA firm that says that we are going to organize your assets in a tax-efficient way. Which one do you want? The one that's going to do your taxes to tell you how much to pay, or someone that's going to help you structure your portfolio, your investments, your life, so you pay as few taxes as possible? Is that helpful?
Very helpful, very, very exciting. And these are the tales from the front lines, and they are very fascinating, and people can relate to that. Just moving on, just to play a little bit devil's advocate, of course, you can distinguish yourself by making a distinction in the value promise that you make. And some of that is, most of it is customer-centric. And then someone like Apple comes along and says, we don't listen to our customers. Our customers don't really know what they want. We go and do what we want to do, and our customers adopt it.
Correct. And the beauty of that is, and the brilliance of Apple, and there are other examples we could use, the brilliance of Google. I mean, everybody thinks Google started out to be Google. They didn't. They just they started out basically as a place to house information, which became what it is today. Apple, the same thing. There's no question that Steve Jobs was a brilliant guy, but he realized that what people had could be better. And he knew he had a better idea. So he didn't go out and ask people, well, would you like this or would you like that? What he did instead was say, he looked at things from the consumer's point of view. If I had a phone where I could go online instead of carrying around two other devices, would that be helpful for me? And in his own mind, I believe, he came to the understanding that if I could put multiple devices into one device, if I had that as a person, that'd be great for me. And I believe in enough in that other people would think it'd be great for them. And that's exactly the approach he took. So when you look at Apple today, they continue down that road. I don't believe they're quite as customer-centric, or shall we say what people need-centric, as they were when Steve Jobs was alive and he was running the company. They're working to get there. You know, they keep reinventing the reinvented. But the next big breakthrough will be someone who understands by building this piece or developing this technology, it'll make it easier, more convenient, more efficient for consumers without asking them. Good example, look at some of the startups that have done extraordinary. Look at Snapchat. Nobody thought Snapchat would come on like it's come on. Why? because people realized, the guys that started that company, they didn't go out and ask anybody, would you like something called Snapchat? What they realized is they needed something that was very high technology, people were very user-friendly, and most importantly, would be fun for people to utilize. And when you make it fun, people get involved. And so as a result of that, they went out in the marketplace, built an app that is, as you know, many millions of people are using because it filled a need in the market. And that's the key thing. If you can determine the need in the marketplace and then build it and then explain to people why they need it or what it does for them, not that how good you are with technology, but what it does for them, like Steve Jobs did, like Snapchat did, like Google did. And that's the reason Yahoo's struggling, because they're talking about Yahoo. They need to be talking about what Yahoo could do for end users. So by talking about what it does for people and how people will benefit and the advantage they're going to receive, then people migrate and adopt that product or that service.
It's one thing to be very good at communicating who or how distinct you are, but it's another thing to get your entire organization behind that promise. Without that, any promise you make or how distinct you are is just a promise that people eventually just don't believe in you. How important is to making sure what you promise you have resources and organizations ready to back it up?
That's a brilliant question. I speak at a lot of conferences all over the world, and one of the topics I talk about are the new keystones of leadership, given the different generations that we have today. And it fits right into your question. The most important thing, whatever your product, whatever your promise, if you will, to the marketplace, all the messaging in the world means nothing, to your point, if you can't follow through. So the most important thing is, number one, the company needs to have the vision, and that vision needs to be to support that brand promise, or if you will, that promise made to the marketplace. Secondly, that there absolutely has to be a culture that becomes, if you will, customer-centric or client-centric behind it. Now, what do we mean by that? That means that the values of the founders, the CEO of the company and the larger firms and the firms we work with, one thing we always do, we're working with a fast food chain right now. First thing I want to do, I sat down with the founders and the senior executives and said, tell me the values that you believe are your company values. And they did. And my question to them was, are you building a culture around these values? Or when you're communicating with your staff all over this country and in North America, are you really talking about your product, your service, your stores, your revenue? They were talking about product, service, stores, and revenue. The bottom line is, if the more you talk about the firm and not about the customer, the employee then becomes about themselves and not about the customer. So what you want to do is you have a vision, and then you build a caring culture around your employees, your contractors, whoever they might be, so that they want to care for the customer and live out the brand promise or the promise you're making in the market. And that you can do that. Now, culture is not something you install. It has intangible and tangible components. But the bottom line is you can create a culture that is focused on the customer and not on, shall we say, oneself or on just the company. If you look at some of the wonderful brands that are out there today that are really, look at Nike. I mean, to be the number one athletic company in the world, that is what they want to be. Nike just do it. And when you look at everything Nike does, it's all about the consumer, even in all their stores, because that's all they ever talk about. It's about the customer, about the customer. It's all about that shared values. We're working with a firm in Israel, second largest bank. They went through this process with their customers of asking, why do you do business with us? And then the next question, why is that important? And what they discovered, the reason people were doing business with them, not just in Israel, but literally all over the world, is because the customers said, the reason we do business with you, because we have shared values with you. That's a big message. So when you build out a customer-centric culture by having your values in line with your promise, then what happens is you're able to deliver on it. And there's one more component, and that is today, you have to realize that customers are pretty, shall we say, have a high level of expectancy, meaning that what you must do is elevate every customer's experience so they're not just satisfied customers, but rather delighted advocates for your business. I think we all know satisfied customers are loyalty neutral. What does that mean? That means they may buy from you, but then they're shopping around and they're buying from other people, or they're looking for the best price. Your objective should be to elevate every time you have a contact with them, whether it's a customer service center, where they walk into your store. It's not, can I help you? But how may I serve you? I was at Donovan Steakhouse in San Diego. I was speaking at a conference out there a week or so ago at the convention center. And I went to Donovan Steakhouse. It's a high-end steakhouse there. My client took me to the CEO. We're having dinner. Let me give you a point of reference here. You go to most steakhouses and they say, "Oh, so how do you like your steak?" You know, you want to, and so you tell them rare, medium rare, well done, whatever. But this young man, great service going in the door, wonderful table. And he said, we ordered our steaks, and then he's turned to me and he said, "How do you enjoy your steak?" Well, that's a whole lot better than how do you want it. Now, it's a little thing, but it was a profound impact. They rated the #1 steakhouse in Southern California. Part of it is because they're elevating the experience.
Fascinating. How did you get into this business? How did you get involved in helping others becoming better? And tell us a little bit more about the author who is behind this book.
Well, thank you. Well, I was orphaned when I was a kid. My mother died when I was 5. My dad died when I was 6. So I lived in 19 foster homes in upstate New York, and my first sales job was selling cookware door to door. So it was really great training living on the foster homes, because I've never had any challenge calling on strangers or going to strangers' houses. But as a result of that, after several sales jobs, et cetera, I worked for Rolls-Royce for quite a period of time as an executive. Then I was the head of sales and marketing for the Robb Report when it first started, the luxury magazine. And after some events there in my life, people began to call me and said, "Would you come and speak on how you built these somewhat large enterprises in understanding the consumer's perspective?" It's just like somehow you've got this way of seeing things from the customer's point of view. I never really saw it that way, but that's how friends and people that knew me, vendors and others. So I started to speak. That began this journey of speaking at conferences. I wrote a book in the late 90s called Opening Closed Doors, Keys to Reaching Hard to Reach People. That was a bestseller. And then since then, I've written 140 workbook textbooks. I've written a couple of hundred video education programs for companies. Started a consulting business, and we have now 5 offices worldwide. I speak at a lot of conferences, over 100 a year, of all sizes, from 20 people to 40,000 people. But the important thing is what really has been the catalyst for me as an individual is that I have been gifted. I'm a man of faith, so I see things that I realize that I have the ability to see things from the end user, the consumer's point of view. I talked to a CEO of Vancouver the other night. In fact, he wrote the foreword for the book, The Power of Why. And his comment to me was, Richard, he said, every time we've met with you, you always sort of stop us and say, okay, now let's think in our mind, we're going to walk out of the building, we're going to stand in the street, we're going to look back at our headquarters. This is a multinational company. He said, you even tell the board, go stand in the street, let's, in our mind, look back at the company, and is that message going to resonate with our customers and our prospects? And as he said, it got us, we've been thinking now, and we organize as marketers, not as merchandisers. So that is, I've been very blessed to have that ability. It's just something comes innately, but as a result of that, and through building all these workbooks and textbooks and others to help people to market effectively and to build organizations of distinction and working in all these different market sectors and speaking all over the world, I began to see this behavior shift in 06 and 07. We began to do a lot of research. I talked to 3,300 consumers face-to-face, kneecap to kneecap. We interviewed 3,300 consumers, to ask them how they make buying decisions. The overwhelming percentage, over 81% said the number one thing they look for is a promise of relevant outcome on how they're going to solve their problem or elevate their experience or let them enjoy whatever it is that they're pursuing. That was pretty clear. It was time for me to write this book. And that's why I wrote it. And I put a lot of anecdotes in from our consulting, et cetera, not to make it a book about consulting, but so people can, as the CEO said to me the other day, he said, I started to read it and I realized, wait a minute, I need to be open. The reason these stories are here to help me to understand, I need to be willing to adopt what these other CEOs are doing. But most importantly, I got to be transparent and realize, you know what? We are too much about ourselves. We need to do a far better job of communicating from, shall we say, the customer's point of view.
Are you planning to work on more books or more textbooks along these lines? You have had successful books in the past. It looks like you're a natural author and you enjoy writing. Are you all going to...
I do. Yeah, I do enjoy writing. I say I enjoy it. It's in many ways, I think it's like an affliction. It's funny, I can't write. I read a lot of articles. I have no idea, hundreds and hundreds of articles I've written for all types of publications, from Work to Forbes to others, but Wall Street Journal. But I have another book percolating in my mind. And what's really weird, I have to get the title. If I get the title, I was home and I was struggling with the title of this book, The Power of Why, Breaking Out the Competitive Marketplace. And for about a month and a half, I had the whole book in my head. And I came in the door one day, and my wife took one look at me, and she says, oh my God, you've got the title. I said, yeah. She said, I'll see you in 6 months. And I wrote every day for 6 months. And I've got another book percolating in my mind, and we may get to it. And I'll tell you, it's really about what, if you will, elevating the customer experience. Yeah, I know it's the next big thing. I'll just give you one anecdotal point. I talked to a fellow in West Palm Beach, Florida. I was over there speaking for a large charitable group and in Palm Beach, and a lot of donors, wealthy people there. And this guy was in a restaurant business. He came up and said, Richard, we're really suffering. We're in the financial district. They've opened 5 restaurants in our plaza. He said, it's really hurt my business. And he said, I'm going to buy your book. He said, but if you got anything you can help me do. I said, well, first things first. The people that are coming in, they're all people out of these office buildings, correct? He said, right. I said, great. What's their number one problem? He said, well, they're hungry. I said, no, their number one problem is they want to get on the phone, they want to get on their iPad, and the bottom line is they need energy. So if I were you, the very first thing I'd do is put an electric strip around the whole entire outside of all the booths there, and I'd have every table with a pop stand where they could plug in, like at an airport, where they could plug in their iPhone or their iPad, and have your waitresses, your servers come up with a basket with red cords for every type of device, iPhone, Droid, whatever it might be, and say, listen, would you like to charge your phone, like to charge your iPad while you're here? And he just looked at me and I said, because nobody does that, and yet that's what people want. They get out of the office, they got an hour, they're on their iPad, they're on their iPhone, they're checking their email, and the bottom line is they want someplace they can plug in. In any case, I was back there a few months later, and I stopped in, and he was just beaming. He said, it's unbelievable. People wait in line. The first thing they'll say, hey, I need to charge my phone, and I will get something to eat. So that's sort of been a sort of a germ in my mind. And then lots of other things, too. We lots of things that I'm seeing in the marketplace, elevating the customer experience, I think is likely going to be around the topic of my next book, but not just service, but how do you elevate the experience? How may I help you versus, even Walmart just made the change to their aprons. It used to say, how can I help you? Now it says, how may I help you? So again, small tweak, big difference in the way that people perceive. So we'll see.
We've been speaking with Richard Weylman, The Power of Why, Breaking Out in a Competitive Marketplace. Thank you very much for your time and your comments, and please do keep us in mind when you have your another book.
I will do that, and thank you for the courtesy of being with you today. If anyone has any questions, you can feel welcome to reach out. My email is in the book. It's Richard Weylman, Weylman, richardweylman.com. Send me an email if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. If you'd like me to speak at a conference or something and have a discussion around that, we're certainly open to that as well. And it's Richard, Weylman.com. Thank you so much for the privilege of being with you today. And for all of those that are listening, just go out and knock them alive out there and really build a business of distinction.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the encouragement. Thank you.